My husband's guy's trip was actually his bachelor party for his secret second marriage. I always thought stories like this only happened in movies. You hear about men living double lives, about secret families and hidden marriages, but you never think it could happen to you. You never think the person you trust the most, the one who sleeps next to you every night, the one who promised forever, could be capable of something like this. But I was wrong. Because my husband didn't just cheat, he got married to someone else, and I didn't find out until it was already done. It started with the guy's trip. He had been talking about it for weeks, how he and his friends were taking a much-needed vacation, just the guys, one last adventure before everyone got too busy with careers, kids, and life. I didn't think much of it at the time. I wasn't the type to get jealous over stuff like that. If anything, I encouraged him to go, told him it sounded fun, that I hoped he had a great time. I even helped him pack. He flew out on a Thursday, sent me a few texts when he landed, a couple of pictures of the beach. Then, after the first day, silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe they were just having too much fun. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he was just enjoying the moment, but something felt off. I tried to ignore the growing anxiety in my chest. I didn't want to be the paranoid wife who ruined her husband's trip because she couldn't handle a little radio silence. By the third day, I caved and called him. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I checked his location on my phone, something I rarely did because I had never needed to. Location unavailable. That's when the panic set in. I messaged his friends, the ones I knew he was traveling with. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I kept it casual. Hey, hope you guys are having a great time. I haven't heard from her husband in a couple of days. Just wanted to make sure everything's okay. One of them responded almost immediately. Hey, yeah, we're all good. He probably just forgot to charge his phone. We've been super busy. I'll tell him to call you when I see him. I tried to tell myself that was a reasonable explanation, but something wasn't adding up. If his phone was dead, why hadn't he borrowed someone else's to send me a quick message? Why was his location turned off? Why was my gut screaming at me that something was wrong? Then I got a message from someone I did not expect, his coworker. I barely knew her. We had met once at a company event, exchanged polite smiles, and that was it. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, I was confused. Then I opened the message, and my entire world shattered. Hey, I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I thought you deserved to know. I saw something on Facebook, and I think you need to see it. Attached was a screenshot. A wedding announcement. My husband, in a tuxedo, standing next to a woman I had never seen before, smiling, holding hands, with "just married" written in the caption. I sat frozen, staring at the wedding photo on my phone. My husband, in a tuxedo, holding hands with a woman I had never seen before, smiling like he didn't have a wife back home. The caption was simple. Just married. My stomach twisted into knots as I scrolled through the comments. So happy for you both. Finally, you two are perfect together. Finally, that word kept echoing in my head. These people knew. They had been waiting for this wedding, meaning it wasn't some spur-of-the-moment mistake. It wasn't some drunken elopement in Vegas. This was planned, and I was the only one who hadn't known. I gripped my phone so tightly my fingers ached. I forced myself to take deep breaths, my brain scrambling to make sense of what I was seeing. This had to be fake. A joke, a mistake. Maybe someone used his picture without him knowing? But no. His best friend had commented, "So glad I could be there for your big day, man." My vision blurred. My husband's best friend, the one who had reassured me that the guy's trip was going great, had been there at the wedding, standing beside him, watching him marry someone else, while I sat at home believing he was off having beers with his friends. I needed answers. I scrolled through more of the woman's photos, searching for anything that would tell me how long this had been going on. It didn't take long. Her profile was public, and she had posted pictures of them together for months. Cute dinner dates, beach vacations, a photo of them cuddled up on a couch, captioned, "My favorite person." I felt like I was going to be sick. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some random affair. This was a full-blown relationship. I closed the app and immediately called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I tried texting. "Call me now." Nothing. My heart pounded as I dialed his best friend, the one who had just commented on the wedding post. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, what's up?" For a second, I was too stunned to speak. He sounded normal, casual, like he wasn't a groomsman at my husband's second wedding 2 days ago. like he hadn't looked me in the eyes and lied to my face. I forced my voice to stay steady. "Where is he?" There was a pause, a long one, then carefully, "What do you mean?" My hands tightened into fists. "I know." Another pause, then a sigh. "Look, I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but you were there." My voice cracked. "You knew. This whole time you knew." He didn't deny it. I let out a sharp breath, trying to push down the overwhelming mix of rage, betrayal, and humiliation flooding my body. "How long?" "A while." I gritted my teeth. "How long?" Another sigh. Then, finally, the truth. "They've been together for almost 3 years." My stomach dropped. 3 years! I thought back to where I was 3 years ago. I was still planning our anniversary trip, still buying him little gifts, still trusting him completely. The entire time he had been with her, taking her out, spending nights in her bed, and I hadn't suspected a thing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And the wedding? "It wasn't supposed to happen this soon," he admitted, "but she got pregnant." I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. Pregnant! My husband had married her because she was pregnant. My head spun as I tried to process that on top of everything else. I thought I had already reached my limit for what I could handle in one night. But then, he kept talking. "They've been engaged for over a year. He was waiting for the right time to tell you." I let out a short, humorless laugh. The right time? He was going to tell me after he married someone else? There was nothing but silence on the other end of the line. I had my answer. I hung up. For a long time I just sat there, staring at nothing, the weight of it all crushing me. 3 years. A secret fiancé, a wedding, a baby on the way. My husband had built an entirely separate life while still coming home to me every night, kissing me goodbye in the mornings, pretending like nothing had changed. The betrayal was so massive, so overwhelming, that my body didn't even know how to react. I wasn't crying, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't anything, just completely numb. Then, without really thinking, I grabbed my laptop and opened our shared bank account. I shouldn't have been surprised. Half the money was gone. I clicked through the transaction history, scanning through months of withdrawals I hadn't paid much attention to before. Thousands of dollars pulled out at random times, little by little, spread out just enough that I never noticed. Some charges to fancy restaurants, jewelry stores, baby boutiques. He had been financing his second life with our money. That was the breaking point. The rage hit me so fast and so hard that I had to stand up. My hands shook, my breathing sharp and uneven. I had given him everything. My love, my trust, my future, and this is what he had done with it? This is how he repaid me? I had never felt such a deep, burning fury in my entire life, and I wasn't about to just sit back and let him get away with it. He thought he could disappear for a weekend and come back to this same house, to me, and just pretend like nothing had happened? He thought he could keep me in the dark forever? No, absolutely not. I was going to make sure his entire world came crashing down. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind wouldn't shut off, running through every moment of the last few years, trying to pinpoint when exactly my marriage had turned into a lie. Was it always a lie? Had I been nothing more than a placeholder while he built his real life with her? At some point, sitting there in the dark, scrolling through every transaction he made with our money, the sadness burned out. All that was left was anger. Not the kind that makes you cry, the kind that sharpens you. He thought he was going to come back home after his guy's trip, kiss me on the cheek, tell me he missed me, and slide right back into our life like nothing had happened. Maybe he planned to keep the secret going for a few more months, then break the news gently when he was ready. He must have thought I'd sit around, none the wiser, playing the role of his oblivious wife. He had no idea what was waiting for him. By the time his plane landed, I had locked him out of our bank account, found a lawyer, and packed up every last one of his belongings. His suits, his shoes, his expensive watches, everything he cared about was stuffed into garbage bags and tossed into the garage. I didn't destroy anything. That would be too easy. I wanted him to see it all, lined up neatly like an eviction notice he never saw coming. His house key wouldn't work. I changed the locks. His phone calls went straight to voicemail. I blocked him. And when he pulled up to our driveway, suitcase in hand, expecting to walk into our home, he found all of his things waiting for him outside instead. I stood in the doorway, watching as he stepped out of the car, confusion spreading across his face. He looked at the house, then at the garage where the bags were piled up. His phone was already in his hand, probably to call me, but then he spotted me standing there. That's when he knew. I didn't move as he walked up to the porch. His usual confidence wasn't there. He looked cautious now, like he was trying to figure out how much I knew before he said the wrong thing. "What's going on?" His voice was even, but there was something forced about it. "You tell me," I said. His eyes darted back to the garage. "Why is all my stuff outside?" I folded my arms. "Because you don't live here anymore." He let out a breath like he was trying to stay patient. "Okay, let's talk about this inside." That almost made me laugh. Inside? Like he thought I was just upset about something minor? Like I was going to let him into my home so he could feed me more lies? "No," I said. "You don't get to come inside." His jaw tightened. "Come on, let's not do this out here." I tilted my head. "Oh, you care about privacy? That's funny. You weren't so concerned about privacy when you married someone else." The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. I... What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about." He glanced toward the street like he was hoping no one could hear this. "We should—" "She knows too, by the way," I cut in. "Your new wife. She knows everything now." He looked like he had been slapped. His whole body went stiff, his hands tightening around the handle of his suitcase. "She seemed really happy when I told her," I continued, "especially when I sent her the marriage certificate with my name on it. I guess she didn't know she was marrying a man who was already married." His voice was lower now, more urgent. "We don't need to do this here." "No, you don't want to do this here. I, on the other hand, don't care who hears. Maybe the neighbors would like to know why your bags are sitting in the garage. Maybe your parents would too." His head snapped up. "You told my parents?" "Not yet, but if you keep standing here wasting my time, I might get bored and make a few phone calls." He was panicking now. He tried a different approach. "Look, I know you're upset." "Upset?" I laughed. "I don't think that word covers it. Try humiliated, disgusted, furious. You didn't just cheat. You got married. You built an entirely separate life and stole our money to fund it." His hands went to his hair, dragging through it like he was trying to pull himself together. "I was going to tell you." "Before or after the baby was born?" His head snapped up so fast I almost felt bad for him. Almost. "She told me everything," I said, voice steady. "The wedding, the engagement, the house, the baby. The one you were planning to raise with her while still coming home to me." He didn't even try to deny it. I had never seen him speechless before. This was a man who always had an excuse, a charming lie, a way to talk himself out of any situation. But right now, he had nothing. "You're a fraud," I said. "You're not a husband. You're not a father. You're a coward who thought he could juggle two lives and never get caught." He ran a hand over his face, looking down at the ground like he was searching for the right thing to say. I gave him one last gift before I walked away. "She's divorcing you too, by the way." His entire body tensed. "I guess that makes two of us," I added. For a second he looked like he was going to say something, maybe beg, maybe try to spin some ridiculous story about how this was all a misunderstanding. But there was nothing left to say. He had lost everything, and it was his own fault. I turned, walked inside, and shut the door behind me. I locked the door behind me and stood there for a moment, listening. I half expected him to start banging on the door, demanding to be let in, maybe try to plead, try to find the right words to fix the disaster he had created. But there was nothing, just silence. Then after a few minutes, the sound of his suitcase wheels scraping against the pavement. He was leaving. Good. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. I had done everything I needed to do. Changed the locks, emptied the shared accounts, contacted a lawyer. His new wife knew the truth, and by now his family did too. There was nothing left for him to lie about. No way for him to spin this into something he could walk away from unscathed. He thought he could live two lives and never get caught. He thought he was smarter than everyone around him, that we would never put the pieces together. But now he had nothing. The messages started a few hours later. At first they were pathetic attempts at damage control. "Can we talk? I made a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen this way." I didn't respond. Then came the blame. "You told her everything? Are you serious? Do you know what you've done? You ruined my life." I ruined his life. That one actually made me laugh. I had given him a home, a marriage, a partner who trusted him, who believed in him. And he threw it all away. He was the one who lied. He was the one who betrayed not just me, but her too. And now that his world was crumbling around him, he wanted someone to blame. I blocked his number. His parents called next, his mother crying, saying she didn't raise him to be this way, that she had no idea what he had been doing. His father, angrier, saying he wanted to talk to him first before making any decisions. I didn't care what they decided. I wasn't going to spend another second cleaning up his mess. I had my own life to rebuild. The next few weeks were strange. I was waiting to feel something. Grief, sadness, anger. Something that would knock the wind out of me, make me feel like my world had shattered. But it never came. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't even mourning the life I had lost, because when I really thought about it, there was no life to mourn. My marriage wasn't real. He wasn't the man I thought he was. The life I thought I had with him, it didn't exist. I was free. His new wife, ex-wife now, stayed in contact for a little while. Not because we were friends, but because we had both gone through the same betrayal. She told me she was going after him legally, that her family had pulled every bit of financial support. She told me she wasn't going to make the divorce easy for him. I wished her luck. Then I moved on. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that he was completely alone. His second wife left him. His family barely spoke to him. His finances were in ruins. The house her parents bought? Gone. The job he had been so proud of? He left before they could fire him. Turns out getting caught stealing money from your own wife doesn't look great to employers. He tried reaching out one last time, a long email, full of excuses, how he had been confused, how he had never meant to hurt anyone, how he still loved me. I didn't even read the whole thing before deleting it. Some people spend their whole lives running from consequences. He finally ran into his, and I wasn't about to save him from them.